Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying.
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. It's time for another episode of Corner of the Galaxy from the Box, the show that gets you behind the scenes of the LA Galaxy and into the minds of soccer reporters and MLS experts. Your hosts for the day are Corner of the Galaxy's Josh Guesman and LA Times soccer reporter Kevin Baxter. Let's start the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Monday, April 18th, as the LA Galaxy get ready for a two-game week. San Diego Loyal coming up on Tuesday night, so tomorrow night as we're recording, in the U.S. Open Cup, and then, of course, Nashville coming up on Saturday. We're going to get you ready for San Diego. We're going to talk about the LA Galaxy 0-0 draw, maybe the most boring soccer you've ever watched, against Chicago Fire. There are some things to take away from this. We're going to tell you maybe what each of us think is the big takeaway from the Chicago game. I'm going to talk about our live event and us being out there, talking to some of you, broadcasting at the LA Galaxy Soccer Complex in Torrance. LA Galaxy add a former LA Galaxy player to the technical staff as well, so we're going to get a little bit into that. Standings, news, all that fun stuff. Tickets for the Leagues Cup showcase. So a lot of stuff to get to, a lot of things to talk about to help me do that. He's back. It's the Panda himself, Mr. Kevin Baxter. Kev, how's it going?
Hey, happy tax day, or in your case, tax avoidance day.
Oh man,
it's tax day, right?
It is the 18th. I had to double check with my accountant this morning that like everything was done and that we had signed all the stuff and done all the things and we were good. And yes, that was the case. So I was just making sure.
As much as Elon Musk, right? Which is like how many shots the Galaxy had on it.
Let's see. Let's see. The state of California always gets their money. Let's say that the state of California always gets their money. I don't think you can avoid that one. I'll say that overall, I probably came out a little bit ahead this time, but not much. I don't have that many write-offs. Just a child. That'll help. Have a child. Helps. You want a tax deduction? Have a child. There you go. There's my family advice for the day. How was the rest of your weekend, Kevin, after being nearly windswept away in Torrance, in the windiest city in the world, Torrance?
Well, first of all, I need to say that those of you who are watching and can see me in all my luscious pandaness, this is not a pajama top. This is a French national team practice jersey, and since they are the reigning world champions, I decided to wear this today. It does on the camera. It looks like I'm in my pajamas.
I would call that a pajama top for sure.
Yeah, it kind of looks that way.
That's okay. We'll allow it. But how was your weekend?
I went to see the Frida Kahlo exhibition, the immersive Frida Kahlo exhibition. I recommend it highly. Very good. And it really fits that format. Went to see the Van Gogh one. It wasn't quite, because Van Gogh, it's just sort of really good art, but it's basic. I mean, Frida has all kinds of magical realism and symbolism and everything. And it really lends itself to that format. So highly recommend it. Very, very entertaining. On Easter.
Oh, okay, that works.
Frida Kahlo and Easter. I mean, what a combination.
I'm glad you had fun. That's really all that I wanted to make sure is that you enjoyed yourself over the weekend. Kevin was out there for our live event, and before we get starting to talk about Chicago, it was a ton of fun. Actually, I had a great time. Kevin, we went out and
cool police car.
You did get a squishy. Hold on, I'll go back to it. You went a squishy police car. I got a squishy police car. Yep. That was nice. Those were our big takeaways from that. Besides seeing all the wonderful people, but the LA Galaxy launched the LA Galaxy Sports Complex, which of course was right across the street. Which just serendipitous, I'll tell you. You're right across the street from the LA Galaxy's Connecta Soccer Center, which is where they do a lot of their futsal camps, and they have a lot of youth camps and a whole bunch of other things as well.
Those are big scissors.
Giant scissors. If you watch the video, it took them a couple times to actually get those big fake scissors to actually work. I don't know, is there a big scissor company? Where do you just type in big ceremonial scissors and
it's the same company that makes those big checks for the PGA Tour?
Yeah, right next to it.
Company, yeah.
That where Happy Gilmore was like had all these big checks in the back of his car. That was one of the best bits, by the way, was all the big checks in the back of his car, waiting to be cashed. But anyway, so we did that. We got to talk to Tom Braun, who is one of the head LA Galaxy people. I would say
That's not his title.
No, I don't make me. I actually have to look it up again because, good Lord, it is the longest title, by the way, that I think I've ever seen. It was Tom Braun is the LA Galaxy Senior Vice President, Soccer and Business Operations and Business Development. I made a joke. It wraps all the way around his card whenever he says it. But yeah, it was cool to sort of see that all open up. They had free ice cream, Kevin, which was, I think, your big takeaway from this. I enjoyed it immensely.
And pizza, but you had to pay for that.
I had to pay for the pizza.
Even
That's okay.
celebrities like us, we had to pay.
We got to do an hour-long show in the wind. By the way, a big, huge shout-out to one of our Discord members and a really great guy, Matt, Mr. Provino on our Discord. Matt came out and brought an easy up for us to use. And poor Matt, I don't think he realized he was going to be relegated to anchor duty for the entire hour or 2 hours that we were there.
It turned into a parasail.
It did. It tried to collapse. It was hysterical because we're talking about Chicago and we're saying, oh, well, it's usually windy in Chicago. And here we are in Torrance. The wind's blowing like 30, 35 miles an hour. Tried to lift Christian Miles off the ground a couple times. It collapsed the tent one time actually blew it down and in. It was nuts.
Torrance, the Windy City, known as the Windy City of Big Shoulders. There you are. Look at that.
Yeah, Linda Pickle, I think, snapped some of these whenever she was coming by, so I stole them from her Facebook. But just Christian and I talking. I'm sure Christian will enjoy that picture. But doing the show, we had our broadcast headset. We had some people out in front. It was great. There were so many cool vendors, too. I saw 1-2 Threads there. Galaxy Art Fire was there. The Z-Pot lady. I mean, the wonderful couple who was right across from us, I can't remember their name all of a sudden, that does the scarves and like the Cosmo hats and stuff like that. That was amazing. They were right across from us. So again, it was no
pupusas. We got to fix that next time.
That was the one sort of downside to all this was no pupusas. So we had a great time. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, it was windy. We still were able to do an hour-long show. If you go on the podcast, if you go on SoundCloud, if you go on our website, you can find that show. I did release it post us being out there. And eventually we're going to figure out a way to stream that show like live when we do it. I just didn't have it all set up and ready to go. So we'll figure that out for next time. Actually, Kevin, it didn't. It didn't sound like that at all, I was amazed. We did not get too much wind noise, so I was happy with that. By the way, people in the chat room think that they're smart. They're saying, well, why didn't you bring like the anchors to hold down the easy up? The people with anchors were holding down their easy ups. The weights weren't keeping these things down. We had some serious gusts of wind. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Dorothy and Toto blew by at one point.
It was intense. It was intense. Our table tried to lift up a couple of times. It was good. My wagon went blowing across the parking lot. The fire department, the Torrance Fire Department, who was next to us, had to wrestle it down and rescue it, which is good because they're good at that stuff. So it was a lot of fun to sort of to do that and to have some fun with all the people around there. I got to meet a whole bunch of people and got to get hand out some stickers and say hello. And I was modeling our long sleeve our Corner of the Galaxy kit that we're working on getting pre-orders for, so that should be coming out here in just a little bit. So
it's all about the merc, isn't it? With you, all about the merc.
Merch. It's not merc. It's merch.
If I cannot say Zlatan's last name, if I cannot say Nicholas's Dupuy's last name, I'm not going to get merc right.
I literally, like the one thing. How do you not know merch? Like that is a comedian joke too. It's like, oh, gotta go sell the merch. Like everybody knows how to say that. It scares me sometimes. I feel like you don't get out and interact with enough people. I feel like this is your only like time where you see people.
Well, I every once in a while I talk to Larry Morgan, not on Twitter, but I talk to him. I mean, I'm a print journalist. I write. I don't speak, obviously, and now we know why. Yes,
there it is. All right, let's get talking about this game: LA Galaxy and Chicago Fire in Chicago.
The worst game ever played, ever by anybody, ever.
It's not even close to the worst game. It just wasn't a very good one. I think I started my game recap by saying, if you watch that entire game. Sorry about that.
What? Put the score back up again. It even announces right there.
Yeah. 0-0. It was not pretty. Listen.
Nail up. Zip up.
Listen, you're going to see this from Chicago this year. This is how they play. And I was talking to somebody who watches soccer a lot. I won't say their name because this is rather indicting of the Chicago Fire, but they said that Ezra's anti-soccer that he's playing right now will get Chicago points but it's not going to win any hearts and minds in that stadium.
But that is such a spot on comment, because Chicago's been bad for a long time. They're getting points. They're not winning a lot of games, but I mean, with a 17-year-old goalkeeper, they're playing really well as far as in comparison to other Chicago teams. Ezra had to work with what he had.
Right.
And so if the idea is get points and be competitive, he's done that. If the idea is get fans to come out in 37-degree weather on the lake in Chicago, it's not going to happen playing this way. And I finally get it. People are talking a lot about the way certain teams play, with Bob Bradley's team. That was one of the things LAFC said. We play attractive football. I never really had the appreciation of it until Saturday, when I see what unattractive football is like. And it's just brutal.
I'll tell you this, that Ezra is doing everything in his power to be successful for the Fire with what he has right now, with Shaqiri not being able to play. That was one of the storylines in that. As we heard afterwards, apparently they leave the grass a little long. The field is a little sparse. I was talking to somebody who was there on the field. They said the grass was long and sticky. There were bare spots all over the field. Some of the bare spots had sand in them. That was nice. And to tap it all off, one of the 6-yard boxes had brand new sod in it because it was probably so worn down it was trashed, and they had to replace it. And when everybody should know about grass, whenever it's like 35 degrees out and sort of in the winter spring that we're currently experiencing there, it doesn't exactly have time to like get in there and root. So it was probably just floating on some sand in there as well. So
no excuse for that. NFL field, no excuse for that. The long grass, yeah, I get it. That every team has and the field was very narrow too. But
70 yards.
Yeah, every team puts a field together based on the way they play. They do that in every sport. Football, basketball. Well, there's no field in basketball, but football, baseball, you leave the grass long if you bunt a lot, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I get that. But the bare spots, the grass not taking root, all that. There's no excuse for that. That hurts Ezra's team as much as it hurts any other team. But I don't think Ezra wants to play this way. I think he has to play this way. I think he'd just as soon play, some good, attractive, attacking football. But he's not going to win that way. He's going to get blown out. Greg Vanny talked a lot about playing against this team. All they did is just every time they get the ball, they just booted it back into the Galaxy end, and that's the way they were going to play.
Yeah, I would say it was successful for them, except that they didn't get 3 points at home. You would think you want 3 points at home. You think that you would have more chances. I'll tell you right now, the expected goals, not that there are any, and I don't think we pointed out, and everybody knows this already, but there were 0 shots on goal from either team in this game. 0 shots on goal.
0 goals and 0 shots on goal. It's like no one showed up.
By the way, American Blue says that it's still better than fake grass, and I would disagree. I would rather play on turf than what they played on in this particular case. I hate turf, but I also don't like it whenever people are going to use a spongy, like spotty, derelict field. Greg Vanny called it
I heard it.
Yeah, bumpy.
Yeah, bumpy. And pasture.
Pasture. What's crazy was, so Greg Vanny said pasture. And I was like, come on, it wasn't a pasture. I go, that's ridiculous. So I reached out to some people who were also there, and I was like, so how was the field? And the people who were on the field or near the field and the whole deal. And they're like, it was horrible. And I said, well, Greg called it a pasture. And they're like, yeah, that's about right. And the whole deal. And then they told me about it, and I was like, oh, okay. So he actually undersold the field. It was way worse. And I think the players downplay it a little bit too. They all talk about it. And anytime players talk about a field, it means that it's worse than just bad, because the guys will deal with bad, like, oh, well, it was sticky and blah, 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 the whole deal. But this was more than that, which was, again, an interesting take to sort of go through it. I mean, let's get to the lineups here, because there's some stuff in here, some things in here that will sort of key us into our next conversations. But lineups: Julian Araujo, Segu Koulibaly, Derek Williams, Raheem Edwards on the defense, Jonathan Bond in goal, Mark Delgado, Kelvin Leardam in the defensive mid. We'll talk about Victor Vasquez here in a second. Douglas Costa, Ryan Ravelson, Sam Grandier, and of course Chicharito up top. So this was your starting 11. Now, Victor Vasquez did not travel. I learned about this on Saturday morning, that he did not travel. We didn't find out why. Greg Vanny cued us into why and said it was a grade 1 hamstring. Now we would imagine that's a strain of some sort there that Victor Vasquez picked up in training on Thursday. So that was the sort of the reason that Victor Vasquez didn't travel. We're going to sort of see, I think, over the course of this week, and we have media availability, I think, on Thursday, Kevin, for Nashville. In person. So we'll sort of see where Victor Vasquez is on that. But with no Victor Vasquez in this lineup, this is a very defensive lineup already. And even moving Ravelis into the 10, or if you have Delgado as the 10, or if you have Leardam as the 10, however you want to make that as sort of quote unquote the 10. And Christian Miles pointed out that in sort of the 4-3-3 or in some of these different setups that they have, there is no real 10 that's involved, but we know that there's a playmaking role somewhere in here. And Ravelis at the point, I think was a little lax in that particular position for this game. Galaxy's first half, Kevin, not great. I thought Chicago had a lot of the ball. I thought they had a lot of chances. I thought that they did a good job of pressuring the Galaxy, and Greg Vanney talked about, the pressure that they were able to apply in that first half, and sort of kept the Galaxy unsettled. And then one of the things the Galaxy love to do, Kevin, is pass the ball and control the pace. So you put them on a bumpy field where they can't pass the ball, where they can't do some of these things, where speed is not an advantage for them. Even Costa, by the way, I thought Costa had one of his best game as an LA Galaxy player, quite honestly. Whenever you can't use the speed with Grandsir or with, Costa on the outside or those types of things, then the Galaxy become one-dimensional. Really, they do. And you saw that they were able to Chicago was able to pressure the center and keep the ball, uncertain, sort of in an uncertain way. Chicago never dominated that possession side of things, Kevin, but for me, they kept the LA Galaxy sort of off balance for most of this.
Well, and this is the way, they did keep the Galaxy off balance, and the Galaxy were off balance by Chicago. They have 5 clean sheets in 7 games. They've only given up 2 goals this year with a 17-year-old goalkeeper. This was and I think that's why Greg Vanney went with the defensive lineup. He knew it was going to be a slugfest. It was going to be a defensive game. They could have started Messi next to Ronaldo and Lewandowski, and they weren't going to light it up against Chicago. So decided to go with the defensive lineup. But, and they did almost have a goal in that first half. There could have been a handball call. It looked pretty obvious to us in the replay.
Yeah.
Didn't get called.
I don't know. I think you and I were watching it whenever we were standing side by side, right at the watch party. And I said, if it hits Ravelison's head or any part of his body and then hits the defender, you're not going to call that a handball. But if it doesn't, then it could be a handball. I didn't have a problem with any of the calls the entire night. And I know there's 3 of them because the LA Galaxy scored 2 goals. They were both ruled offside in 2 different ways. But when we look at all those things and try to place that, I didn't have a problem with most of the refereeing. It wasn't great, but it wasn't horrible either.
Yeah, and the 2 goals that were called back, both in the second half, Chicharito and Costa. Here's where you and I differ. I said before the game, and I still believe, it was a good point on the road. They went to a difficult place to play in tough conditions, cold weather, bad field against a team that is going to bunker down, and they came away with a point. Okay, that's good. But that's where that ends. This is a Galaxy team with the league leader in assists, the guy tied for the league lead in goals, with Douglas Costa, one of Brazil's best players. This is an offensive team, a team that's very potent. Chicharito leads the league, tied for the league lead in goals, and he leads the league in shots on goal. And they didn't get 1 shot on goal, much less a goal. They didn't score. They didn't even get a shot on goal. The Galaxy cannot come away from this feeling that this was a good performance and that this is acceptable. This team is an high-powered offensive team, and this is a disappointing performance. I don't care what the conditions were. This team with this talent needs to do a little bit better than they did. And you wonder, too, Greg Vanney has not won more than 2 games in a row since he came to the Galaxy. I thought they came out of that LAFC game with some momentum. You and I differed a little bit on that. You thought they didn't play a good game, but they got the win against their rival who was unbeaten. It was a big emotional game. I thought they were going to come into Chicago with some momentum, and they wind up leaving without even taking a shot on goal. I think that's a disappointing performance, and it just seems like Greg Vanney can get this team to a certain point and can't get them past that point.
I think your only fair criticism in anything that you said, which you didn't say this exactly, your only fair criticism is that the LA Galaxy can never take over that first place spot, right? We saw a chance for them to sort of jump up and grab a spot, even if it was momentary. At the time, you go into Chicago, you have a chance for first place. How many times do we see last year where the LA Galaxy were on the precipice of taking over the first spot in the Western Conference and didn't make it? And how many times would 1 point or 3 points have gotten them at the end of the season? We look at that overall, taking over first place. And remember, Greg at one point said, hey, the answer is, I guess we just weren't ready to take it over yet. And it's sort of like, well, Greg, when are you going to be ready to take it over? There's definitely a criticism there that whenever it comes to chances for the LA Galaxy to move up the standings, that they haven't taken them a lot. Now,
it seems like they get satisfied with good enough, it almost feels like, and they lack that killer instinct. When they have the chance to go for the jugular, they back off.
Yeah, but I don't see it as a back off. See, you're thinking that like you should go on the road and beat Chicago. That hasn't happened.
I think they should go on the road and get a shot on goal.
Yeah, but that's such a. I mean, so you're saying, oh well, they should get a shot on goal, and that determines whether or not they have a good game.
I think the point was good. I think the game was horrible, and I think a team with Chicharito and Grant Sear and Raheem Edwards and Douglas Costa needs to put the ball on target. I mean, it's just not enough to play patty cake in the middle of the field and not.
They scored 2 goals, which is more than Chicago scored. You realize that?
Well,
they put it in the back of the net twice.
If that's your argument, LAFC had 3 goals against the Galaxy, and they should have won 4-2.
No, I didn't say they should have won. I said that they put the ball in the back of the net. I would agree. LAFC put it into the back of the net. LAFC was the better team again in El Tráfico. That's well documented. They played better. Expected goals they had better. Right? Look at the Portland game going back another. The LA Galaxy didn't play well. This is probably one of the better technical games the Galaxy have played against Chicago. On the road, in difficult conditions, trying to put this together, and they didn't let a Chicago team that has scored and snuck some goals away from people, they didn't let them get 3 points. And they kept up the fact that Chicago hasn't beaten them since like 2010. And hasn't beaten them at Soldier Field since 2005, and hasn't beaten them in Chicago since 2008, right? So they kept all that stuff up. Them walking away with a point on a day where I will say the offensive part of things did not click very well. But when you look what Greg Vanney decided to do in the second half, I mean, I thought he got it 100% right. They were not good in the first half. They were not able to control things. Right?
I think the result was good. A point on the road was good. The result was good. The game was horrible. And I don't think the Galaxy can be pleased with the way they played.
Nobody's going to be happy, but that's not even true. I guarantee those guys were perfectly fine with taking a point from Chicago on the night.
Again, taking a point. Yeah, but if that's the goal, then why not just stay in your own end and kick the ball around? And
you mean like Chicago did?
Yes. Why not do that?
Well, because
the Galaxy done that, would you say that was a good performance? No,
because the Galaxy actually want to play soccer, Kevin. They actually want to try to score goals. And again, they had 2 very good ones. I'll say that there's an argument on the offsides. By the way, the Costa goal, everybody wants to argue about, he was offside. That wasn't even close. I went back and finally got to see an actual view of that. Of course he called him offside. He was offside. You can see the lines on the field. Everything's there. Very much offside. The Chicharito goal, which everybody just sort of said, oh yeah, he was definitely offside, was inches close. And the only reason that stood was because the call on the field was offside, because there was nothing in that I could say would definitely show him onside. But it was super, super tight. So no, I don't have a problem with that. I like the fact that the defense and the midfield stayed disciplined in this game for the most part. I mean, Jonathan Bond had to come up with a huge save. And it's not even a save, by the way. Wasn't even a shot on goal. How about that? When Shabilko comes through in that second half and is going to go on the breakaway and basically walk in and score. Now, I'll tell you this, if Chicago cut the grass, Shabilko scores that goal. But because they didn't score the grass, Jonathan Bond just walked up and took it right off of Shabilko's foot, right? So you can see it sort of hurting the way that Chicago wants to play and how they want to play. They didn't want to play soccer. They just wanted to lob it up and see if they could spring Shabilko free, and they got one shot at it, and they didn't work, right? So if you're going to say, hey, if guys are going to play like that, and look, now the LA Galaxy have played against a Seattle who has a low block, but still wants to play and counter and actually wants to do things. They played against an Orlando City team, which had no interest whatsoever in going forward except on a counterattack, and that, Orlando got the best of them. The Galaxy do have a problem with low blocks. All right. And Chicago is probably the ultimate low block right now. They have 11 guys behind the ball most of the time. But I don't have any issues whatsoever with that field and those conditions, traveling away. And again, one of our biggest concerns coming off of El Tráfico was that there was going to be some sort of emotional letdown against Chicago and that Chicago was going to be able to steal something, and that didn't happen.
Well, I disagree. I think you need the letdown. To me, you're riding high after beating your crosstown rival, and again, the result, a point on the road in those conditions, is good. I have no problem with the result. But if you want to be a championship caliber team, and Greg Vanny's been a coach of championship caliber teams, I'm sure he'll tell you this, you need to impose your game and your will on opponents, especially inferior opponents, which Chicago was. The Galaxy, their next 7 games are against winning teams with winning records today. They're going to have to play better than they played in Chicago.
Really? Oh, there's a genius freaking answer. They're going to have to play better than they played in Chicago.
Well, you just said that they were the 1958 Brazilian World Cup team. So
I absolutely did not. But I will say this again: out of their last 3 games, that was the best game the LA Galaxy have played.
Then it's going to be a long season if that's really true.
No. See, that's the whole thing. Is you're just taking the result of things and thinking that that's the answer. Oh, they didn't get a shot on goal, so that means nothing. Did they create offense? Absolutely, they did in tough conditions against one of the top defenses in the league. And by the way, I was not a believer of Chicago's defense. I get what they do now, right? Which is put big bodies and don't move. They're a low block team. They're going to body people. What did the LA Galaxy set piece defense do? Would they have 8 free kicks that they cleared out, 22 crosses that they cleared out? Everybody wants to sleep. Everybody wants to base this team off of the offense, and you've had to do that for a long time because the LA Galaxy defense has been crap. All right? This LA Galaxy defense that you're seeing and the team defense that is being played is not crap. All right. It is probably the driving force that's going to take the LA Galaxy to the playoffs this year is that defense. They've allowed 6 goals in 7 games.
3 clean sheets.
3 clean sheets in the first 7 games. Almost 50% of their games have been clean sheets so far this year. All right. That is something that you have not seen in a very long time. I hesitate to really jump up and down on them, but people are sleeping on the defensive performance that happened there. That was team defense. That was a connected back line. And that was set piece. Go ahead, give Chicago all the set pieces they have. They have big guys, big bodies, physical players, and they got nada, nothing, 0, zip, zilch from any of those set pieces. And if you would have had that in week 3 against Seattle, they would have scored 6 goals. All right. So the LA Galaxy defense, everybody wants to say, the offense. Douglas Costa definitely coming into his own. Had a lot of touches, had a lot of possession, scored a great goal that was tight, but it was offside, right? And then Chicharito was involved in this. Chicharito had the highest XG on, by the way, at 0.14, right? He missed one good chance, and then he buried another one where, again, it's really tight. Might be onside, might be offside, not going to argue it. And he buried another chance. You gave the guys basically 2 chances or 3 chances. Raveloson missed one at the top of the box, which was probably one of the early chances that they had, which should have been at least on goal. But outside of that, I'm perfectly happy with that performance. Everybody played pretty well, and the adjustment Greg Vanny made in the second half, which is something that'll make everybody really angry, which is drop Leardam back, move Julian Araujo into that right-hand side, move Douglas Costa more interior, right, and basically attacking a 4-4-2. And Greg Vanny said, hey, it wasn't quite, but it's close enough. Basically attacking a 4-4-2 created the chances, the options, and the offense while keeping the LA Galaxy defensively sound. Greg Vanny said it's not worth it in this game to go forward and try to press and lose points. Let's stay compact and let Chicharito and Costa try to create for us up top while we can. And they did exactly that. Did you see whenever Costa scored, Vanny was over there pumping his fist like, that was exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to go in here and steal that goal. And they called it offside. And that's fine. But the Galaxy played in a way that is repeatable down the road. And that's the bigger thing for me.
Yeah, let's go. Let's repeat this. Let's have some no shot on target games. That'll get us to the MLS Cup final.
It's like watching a baseball no hitter sometimes. Whenever every time somebody hits a ball, it's right at somebody, right? Yeah, it's like they got no hit.
If neither team gets a hit, that's a pretty boring game.
I don't know. I think there would be plenty of people who would enjoy a 0-0 ninth inning no hitter on both sides. Don't you think? I know I would. All right, let's go on. Is there anything else that we want to take from this? Is there anything more that you need to talk about this? I mean, I thought the defense was good.
Let's discuss the goals. Oh yeah, wait. Never mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you could sound more American in like your backwards sort of like, oh well, we have to have goals. We have to have goals. It's like you don't have to have goals.
How about a shot? How about a shot?
They had plenty of shots. They got outshot 9-6. Just none of them were on
shots
goal.
Target.
Oh,
Shots on
okay.
target.
All right. They had some block shots that were probably close to being shots on target. I mean, again, don't act like there was no offense generated in this game. I'm not going to say it was pretty to watch. It wasn't. All right. But if you go into it with your eyes closed because it's a 0-0 game with no shots on goal, then you missed it. Then you missed the whole game. You didn't want to pay attention. And then that's again, you can have people like that. I see them on Twitter all the time. I can't believe we didn't have a shot on goal. It's like, oh, okay. Did you pay any attention to the defense and how this team is playing? No. Oh, okay. Then I'm sorry. We'll come back whenever you're ready to go ahead and watch the game in a different light. Sometimes it's not about the goals. Sometimes it's about how the team plays. This team is playing well. That was a pretty decent game. All right. Would Greg Vanney have liked, and he even said it in his postgame, the one thing I would have liked a little more is for us to play a little more forward. That was it. That was the only criticism of Greg Vanney on this night, was I wish that we played a little more forward.
Okay, so they played the most defensive team in the league, a team that doesn't even try to score. They got no shots on target, no goals. Now they're going to play Nashville, which for the last 2 seasons has been the best defensive team in the league. Whether they can rebound from this, whether they can figure it out, whether they can impose their will on Nashville at home, it'll be interesting. And Nashville, as you I think mentioned on Saturday, playing all their games on the road right now, where their stadium's being completed.
Yep,
they've struggled a little bit, but still, it's sort of an identical situation of playing a team that doesn't try to score. Let's see how it works this time.
But no. See, that would be wrong, because Nashville does try to score. They're just a very good defensive team, right?
But, and they're also playing on a regulation side field that has grass everywhere and not a bunch of big holes.
I would just like to remind everybody that a 70-yard wide field is the same distance that it is at New York City FC in width. It's 70 yards on the postage stamp at Yankee Stadium. It's 70 yards wide. It's shorter, but it's 70 yards wide. And that's already small. All right? So it is significant.
It hurts a team like a team like LAFC, which is sort of pulled in and plays direct. It hurts them a little bit, but it really hurts the Galaxy, a team that loves to play wide and comes in on the attack from the wings.
See, you did watch the game.
I
See,
did
look at that.
I was standing next to you.
I thought maybe your eyes were glassed over.
Not eating any of your pizza, but I was standing next to you.
Yeah, I didn't get the pizza till after you left. You left at halftime, and by the way, I don't blame you. I was freezing by that time, and then I went into my car to do the press conference. I was so exhausted by this game, just this entire game, just the entire day, and everything else that happened during the day. I had gotten up early to row that morning. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then I had to hang out with the family for a little while, and then my wife came home late, and I was like struggling to get up to the event on time. We're supposed to be set up by 2:30. I got there at 2, and I strangled. And again, Matt was such a huge help. So awesome. I'm gonna get Matt something. I haven't figured out what I'm gonna get Matt yet, but unlike you, I like Matt, so I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna get something.
I like Matt just fine.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was gonna say I like Matt. I don't like you. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay.
Like, I could get you something, but I want to get Matt something because I like him.
Yeah, get Matt a pizza because you didn't get me one.
You didn't ask for a pizza. I would have got you a pizza. Anyway, so I was so exhausted that I went home, and at 8:45 I was in bed and sleeping. That's how exhausted I was. I was like, no. My wife was up watching her
game.
I was going to, and I was like, nope, not going to happen. I got in my car, and it was warm, and I put the butt warmer on, right? Just, get those heated seats all nice and warm in there. And I got toasty. I asked Greg a question and was like, I'm driving home. Went home, was asleep by 9 o'clock, and I didn't wake up till early in the morning and got up to row again. So,
if you want to go to bed early like that, just save the LA Times and read some of my stories. It'll touch you out.
Don't. You could just put it on like the what is it, the reader, where you click it and it'll read you your stories.
Like a little lullaby music behind it.
Yeah, it'll be great. Absolutely. All right. Yeah, so there's that. I encourage everybody to go to cornerofthegalaxy.com, and you can see the full media call. It was cool. It was interesting because I got to talk to Mark Delgado, who was there. I thought Delgado was fine. I know some people think that like nothing happened. Listen, again, on that field, what you want Delgado to do, it's not conducive to playing the way that he wants to play and how it wants to happen. And I will absolutely... I'll defend that. I think Delgado's fine. Let's see how he plays against Nashville and sort of puts everything up into that and how that all starts to happen. One of the things we did talk about on Saturday, Kevin, was the LA Galaxy and their deal with Spectrum Sportsnet. Now, we still don't have quote unquote official details of this deal, Kevin. But what we do know is the LA Galaxy's local broadcasts will be on Spectrum Sportsnet, as we've been telling you for a while. And the big deal about that is that it seems, at least to most of us, that it's a deal that might not be worth a lot of money. And the whole reason that I can sort of almost emphatically say that is that LA Galaxy is also getting to stream the games on lagalaxy.com. So they sort of do this in sections and in pies, so that way you can understand this. If you are outside of the normal watch area, Kevin, then you can go to ESPN Plus, right, for the local, because you're not blocked out because you're outside of the local area. If you are inside that area, you have two options. One, you can watch it on Spectrum, if you get Spectrum, or two, you can go to lagalaxy.com and you can stream it there. Now, they did that for this game. You could stream this game on lagalaxy.com. By the way, I think that's huge. And we'll talk about some of the problems they had. But Kevin, I think that's huge. That's making it so accessible to anybody in the coverage area. And it opened up to some things about, it opens up the idea that you can sort of grow that game, right? You can grow it within your local, because anybody can go to lagalaxy.com as long as you're inside of that local broadcast area. And if you're outside of it, then you can watch it on ESPN Plus. So nobody's losing any of the slice of the pie there. It is literally free to watch LA Galaxy games. And if you're smart, you might be able to use a VPN and actually get inside of the zone, so that way you don't have to worry about ESPN Plus. I'm not saying to do that because, of course, that's illegal. But if you wanted to, a VPN inside the area would then get you lagalaxy.com games as well. So that feels like that's pretty inclusive to making it as accessible as possible in today's world, Kevin.
I wonder what's driving that too, because they fought this for so long. I wonder if the idea is we want to get as many eyeballs as we can because we're negotiating a TV deal, and it sure would be great if we could show them that a lot of people are watching these broadcasts. We're not cynical enough to believe that, are we?
No, I don't think so. Well, I mean, listen, I know that everybody hates Spectrum, right? This pulls it away from. I have criticisms of Spectrum too. I don't think, and by the way, it has nothing to do with their on-air personalities, at least not the ones that I named.
You like Nikki.
I like Nikki, I like Joe, and I like Kobe. I mean, that's pretty easy. That's a pretty easy people to like and go about. They had, what's his name? The guy who does the Lakers, the chat room's going to get it, who was the studio host for the last one. We've had him on our show, and I had his name yesterday. I was like, oh man, I should text him, because I was like, that's so cool that he was doing it again. Who's the Lakers sideline reporter? What's his name? Do you know?
Nope.
Come on.
Nope.
Lakers sideline reporter, everybody. Figure it out for a second while I don't have to look it up. But anyway, so they had him.
They had Pete on games last year.
They have Pete on games this year. That still baffles my mind. That is the one thing where I sit there and go, really? That's the best? I mean, listen, Pete Vagenas, former player, we all know who he is. But he's also the guy who had one of the most disastrous general manager stints at the LA Galaxy. I mean, between him and Alexi, and you don't see Alexi on the stadium show there either. Although I would say that people will probably be more open to Alexi Lawless being on that show than Pete Vagenas. That baffles my mind. I'm sure there's plenty of talented, smart people who don't have the history that Pete has that they could invite on it. But I'm not in charge of broadcasting, so that's fine. So I think that when you have Joe Tutino, and you said it whenever we were watching it, man, we're so lucky to have Joe Tutino.
Just listen to other broadcasters around the league, and I'm not being harsh on any of them. It's just you listen to Joe and you listen to them, and there's no question that Joe is much easier to listen to.
Everybody's just throwing out names, except for the one person. Let's see, who was it? It was Alexis. Alexis says Mike Trudell. It's Mike Trudell. He was on our team. He's a soccer guy. Mike Trudell. He played at Northwestern. We had him on our show once, and he's great. Love him to death, and he's a great Lakers sideline reporter. I love Mike. So nice. But he was the studio host in there. I think Chris McGee, Jeter is usually in there for these games, but always early in the season, right around this time, it always seems like Mike is the studio host in there. So he's great too. So I think that they try to do what they can. I understand people not loving Spectrum because they're not easily accessible, but this solves that. LAGalaxy.com. You have it. Now, one of the problems that I have, or they had so far, was the audio wasn't working whenever they started the stream for this. Again, learning curves, right? So no audio. And then, unfortunately, they decided to end the stream about 4 minutes into 7 minutes of stoppage time that we had in this game. So if you're watching on the stream, it cut out a little early. I have a feeling they'll fix all those things coming up. But just,
you think it cut out early? I think the camera guy fell asleep.
It's the same camera guy on Spectrum, so no, I don't think it's anybody different. But yes, that's sort of where it was all going in terms, and so I think they're going to get that well. I think this is a huge advantage for LA Galaxy fans to be able to watch games on LAGalaxy.com, on ESPN Plus, on Spectrum if you have it. It gives you options, and the LAGalaxy.com stuff is free. Which again leads me to believe that there isn't a lot of money changing hands in this deal. Otherwise, nobody would want to give anything away for free, right, Kevin?
No, you didn't give pizza away for free, so yeah, I'd agree with that. Although they did give ice cream away for free Saturday.
I had a drumstick. Did you get any ice cream?
I didn't
or
get
no?
any. No.
Oh, okay.
Look at me. Do you think I need ice cream? Holy cow!
I mean, I was freezing, but I was like, I'm definitely gonna have a drumstick, so I had
I'm like
one.
celery and carrots right now.
Yeah. It was really good. It was fun. I enjoyed it. All right. Do you want to go to the? I'm gonna say it because I guess I'm feeling snappy tonight. The most head scratching move of the day for the LA Galaxy, and we'll just say the day because who knows what it'll be like tomorrow or the day before or anything like that.
Yeah, you were kind of on me today. You just really buried Pete Vianis.
I'm sorry. I think you can do better. All right. I mean, that's ultimately what I think.
Speaking of thinking we can do better,
the LA Galaxy named former LA Galaxy player, former MLS player,
two-time MLS Cup champion.
Yeah, two-time Supporter Shield winner too. They really had to dig deep in order to find some of these things. Michael Stevens, little Mikey Stevens, by the way. This was back in the day whenever everybody called him Mikey Stevens.
Like Murphy Delgado.
No, except different because I don't know that Mikey Stevens ever grew out of that. But Michael Stevens was named director of scouting today for the LA Galaxy. This I don't know. I don't know what. I don't know, Kevin. I really cannot explain.
He's a former U.S. soccer drone pilot, is he not?
I mean, he does have a smallish resume for it. He spent time as a scout for the Chicago Fire in 2018 and 2019, and with the U.S. Soccer Federation in 2019 to 2022. So he was with U.S. Soccer. And the last time, and we were joking about this before, but the last time I heard about Michael Stevens was whenever Alan Gordon went on that one podcast with the players from Sporting Kansas City. And he goes, oh, Mikey Stevens? Isn't he flying drones for U.S. Soccer? That was like Alan Gordon's whole thing. And it was just like, you could tell Alan Gordon sees Michael Stevens as like this little guy sort of doing it. So, I will say that I feel like director of scouting is a misnomer in this, being he's reporting to Jovan Karofsky, so I don't think he's director of much. And maybe like you're director of your office, like your own little cubicle that you have. Maybe that's sort of what it is.
Do you think Jovan's going to give up those frequent flyer miles to Paris?
I mean, listen, this is a role the Galaxy need to suss out and need to go after. In his role, this is from the press release, in his role on the Galaxy's technical staff, Stevens will oversee the identification and evaluation of prospective players. Additionally, Stevens will collaborate with the Galaxy technical staff to further develop target markets for recruiting players, both domestically and internationally, for each level within the club's development pyramid.
So they're looking for markets to find players.
I mean,
I can help Brazil and France. They should go there.
I mean, I know you make a joke about it, but there is a science to finding undervalued leagues, right? Undervalued markets where you can go in and sort of say, now that requires analytics, and it's something the LA Galaxy have not done. They do. Listen, there's the type of analytics, and I always screw this up, so I'm going to explain it the way my head works, and then hopefully you can all understand it. There's the type of analytics, Kevin, that look at what you did on the field, and they said, hey, if you do this a little bit better on the field, then you will do this. Like, hey, take more short corners, because on short corners, we're 80% of the time we get a scoring chance on the short corners. All right. Like that's a type of analytics that you can go ahead and look at. There's another type of analytics that goes through and looks at undervalued players in markets, right? And so you can go through and you get a list of players, and you get all their stats, and you roll through and you go, okay, let me look and see. Oh, well, this guy starts every game. He's 26 years old. Whenever you look at his goals plus assists, they're through the roof. Where is this guy, and why isn't anybody looking at him? And it's like, oh, he's undervalued. Oh, he's only $3 million. Oh, okay, let's go find him. Or you can do it as a league, which is go in to look at leagues and say, well, look at all the players that have come out of this league. This is a hot spot. There are players here, and they go and they sell for moderate prices, and we can take advantage of that by going in and getting some of those, possibly like they did with France.
That's exactly what Jovan said that the Galaxy were getting with Cabral and Grandsir. I'm not sure about Raveloson, but definitely with Cabral and Grandsir, Jovan said that these were guys that were undervalued, that they thought they had a much higher upside than anyone in France thought they had.
Right. And that, again, if you have the stats to back that up, then you have an argument to make, right? Doesn't mean that you're going to be right, but you at least have an argument. If that is what Stevens is doing, which is going in here and using some of these data tools, and by the way, there's a ton of different like data companies that have all this data, and like you pay them for the data, and then you can pay them to help you sort through it and do different things, then that is sorely needed for the LA Galaxy. And if he's going to do that, then Yes, the LA Galaxy are way, way, way behind the eight ball whenever it comes to analytics. All right, way behind the eight ball. I mean, there was just one of the like analytics podcasts or like blogs was going through and sort of listing MLS tiers of analytics, and it was basically like the LA Galaxy at the bottom of that tier, with, by the way, probably 50% of the rest of the league. But it's something that if you're the LA Galaxy and pretend to be the biggest club in Major League Soccer and you don't have analytics, and you're not using that in determining talent, scoutability, markets, and things like that, then you're not doing it. Now, if the Galaxy have an analytics person and they've hidden them for all these years from me, then more power to them. Every time I ask, it's like, oh, well, we have a bunch of people who do that. No.
Well, one place where they could look, and where some teams are looking, is Africa is turning out to be a place with a lot of undervalued players, Ghana and Senegal especially, young players who are just developing, turning into really good players. You see some of them in MLS now. That would seem to be, everyone, we joked earlier, Brazil, France, and Spain is a place that exports a lot of players. Everyone's looking at those players. If you find an undervalued player, you got really lucky, because most of those guys, because of their pedigree, are going to be expensive players. You go into some of these African countries now where soccer is really beginning to catch on. I mean, I know it's always been the national pastime, but they're training better, they're developing better. That could be a place where the Galaxy maybe could look and maybe find some undervalued players. They also had another front office hire, right? Contractual thing.
So it wasn't a hire, but maybe a promotion on this. Yeah. If you looked at the bottom of the press release, the LA Galaxy said, additionally, Gordon Kleshin, who is Sasha Kleshin's brother, by the way, Gordon Kleshin, who served as the senior director of soccer operations for the club, has been named the LA Galaxy senior director of player personnel and compliance. And both Kleshin and Stevens will report directly to technical director Jovan Karofsky. So that I'm fine. By the way, I've always heard good things about Gordon Kleshin. I have no issues with any of that.
So he's basically the guy that makes sure everyone's under the salary cap, and that everyone's compliant on the contracts and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yep. That's the idea.
I think it's interesting that both those guys report to Jovan. I mean, I get the Michael Stevens one, but doesn't anyone report to Chris Klein, or does Jovan report to Chris Klein, and that's where it ends? What does Chris Klein do?
Who does Greg Vanny report to? Does he just report to Chris Klein? How does remember, you can't fire a GM, Kevin, if you don't know who the GM is. I've figured that out. They've really pulled some. So I mean, Greg Vanny is definitely the face of this team. It sounds like he's the face of player movement whenever it happens, right? He's the guy who's coming out and saying this stuff. You look, and when we get press releases, you see the quotes. We don't get quotes from Chris Klein. We get quotes from Greg Vanny. We get quotes from Jovan Karofsky.
Well,
right?
Here's where I'm going with this, obviously, is that where does the buck stop? That's what we don't know. We've seen coaches get fired, and we've seen GMs, in the case of Dennis DeClosa, leave. The people above them that have been through here, with the organization since 2017, through 2018, through 2019, Vainas is gone. Jovan and Chris are still there. Does the buck stop somewhere? Is there the responsibility ends with this person? Because I just don't understand how the hierarchy
works, right?
Yeah, exactly. How the inner office structure works.
Architecto Verbal, by the way, I was playing your music at the pop-up event, by the way, to check my speakers. Everybody was grooving to it. It says, he goes, gives us a $5 super chat and says, back to my question of always, Carlos Harvey, what's up with him? Is he definitely out of the squad at this point? He's on the squad. There's no issues with that. He's on the senior team roster as far as I know.
But have you seen him?
I haven't seen him, but he's there. He's there. I mean, he hasn't been playing.
I mean, how do we know that?
I guess it's Schrodinger's cat. I guess it's Schrodinger's cat. He's both on the team and off the team until he's observed.
Well, Tuesday may be the test then, because he's good enough that he should play in the U.S. Open Cup game.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect so. So that's one of the things to sort of take a look at, by the way. So let's see. Looking at the rest of this. One of our guests, by the way, is giving away some tickets to the to the Open Cup game tomorrow.
Oh, I thought you said a new Porsche.
For the Open Cup, the first person who super chats us $10 and says LD10 will get those. I think John is the one on Twitter who was doing that. So I haven't seen it yet. I didn't see any $10 super chats, so I think it's still open for that. So if anybody wants to go to the game tomorrow for $10, you can do that. Thanks again to John for putting that together. All right, let's talk a little bit about
the Open Cup game.
Yeah, let's get it. San Diego Loyal coming up to face the LA Galaxy, Landon Donovan and the San Diego Loyal for the U.S. Open Cup game. The sold out graphic that we have here is showing that the Loyal sold out all of their season ticket member buses that they're bringing up here. I imagine they're going to have quite a crowd coming up to LA to sort of see this game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Landon Donovan, of course, is going to be on the sideline. That's always fun to see. I'm also interested to see how the LA Galaxy sort of line up for these things as well, Kevin, because that's always a big question, right? Is how many first team guys are going to get the start? How many guys do you loan up from LA Galaxy 2 to play in this game? And so there's all of these questions about how seriously you take it and how you go. And the San Diego Loyal, while I think they started well, Kevin, haven't won in their last 2 games at least, right?
Yeah, well, they're 5-2-1. They're second in USL Championship overall. They lead the Western Conference. So they played pretty well. They made the playoffs last year under Landon Donovan. Kyle Vassell is their leading scorer. He is second in the league. He has 5 goals after 8 games they played. So they're playing pretty well. It's not going to be a pushover like some of these U.S. Open Cup games seem to be. And I think Landon's going to have this team really fired up. He's coming back to the stadium with his statue in front. He'll be on the field in a competitive game. I mean, and a competitive first division game. He's been on the sidelines with Loyal playing Galaxy 2 in the main stadium.
Right.
But this is a pretty big deal for him coming back to go against his old first division club. And again, his statue, his statue's in front of the stadium, and now he's going to be on the field coaching against the Galaxy.
It should be fun. I think all tickets except for the premium tickets are general admission, so you can just go there and hang out. If you're not going to use your tickets, I suggest you donate it to somebody. You got them for free with your season ticket member package. So give them to somebody and get as many people there as you can, because I think these are fun games to watch. It's a little, listen, I'm going to tell you from my point of view, it's a little more low intensity on my side of things. It's a little more, nonchalant, able to get to the stadium and relax a little bit into these games and then watch a game. And really, I think you find usually some interesting things can happen in U.S. Open Cup. I want to see how we haven't seen Greg in a U.S. Open Cup, right? And when he was with Toronto, he wasn't in U.S. Open Cup because he was a Canadian team. So I'm interested to see how seriously he takes U.S. Open Cup, whether or not he sees it as so many people say, the easiest way to the CCL is through the U.S. Open Cup. And I say, no, it's not, because you have to have a whole bunch of things go your way in order for it to be the easiest path.
But do you expect to see a lot of guys like Cameron Dunbar and Klinsman? You think he's going to play? And by the way, are you going tomorrow, and are you going to cheer for Landon?
I'm going tomorrow. I will not be cheering. I'll be sitting in the press box. There's no cheering.
You can step outside and applaud Landon
and just woo. I will always give a tip of the hat to Mr. Landon Donovan. So it'll be fun to see him. I think there are a ton of first team players who don't get a lot of minutes who can play in this game. Somebody like maybe Carlos Harvey. Certainly somebody who could be there if he's here. If he's actually on the team or if he's not on the team. Preston Judd. Joveljic, Dejan Joveljic. How do you not start Joveljic in this game? Like you said, Jonathan Klinsman is a good spot there. Eric Zavaleta is a good person to start in this game.
Cameron Dunbar. I want to see Cameron Dunbar.
So, I mean, there is a lot of really good options, I think, for the LA Galaxy to put together a fairly competitive team and a fairly competitive high-level team as well. I don't want to see a huge drop-off in this, and it's a chance to test the depth. And you don't want to use guys that you're going to be using on Saturday against Nashville, right? You want this to be a pretty cakewalk game for the LA Galaxy.
I just don't think San Diego makes it a cakewalk. And you're right, though. You want to get through without, you don't want Chicharito having to come off the bench and score a goal, because you have 7 straight games coming up against winning teams. The Galaxy should have enough depth to be able to win this game, but I think this is a difficult game. If they were playing, I don't know, Sacramento or the Oakland Roots or somebody else, it'd be a totally different thing. But they're playing Landon Donovan and a team that is basically in the same market as the Galaxy. This would be such a big win for that team. It's still a young team.
I mean, it's their World Series. It's their World Cup. It's their championship game, and it's always the case whenever you look at how you start with these lower level teams and they go into these first step.
You know what's great about this game though is because all the pressure's on the Galaxy, and the Galaxy will say it's U.S. Open Cup. But if San Diego wins, it's huge. If they lose, they're supposed to lose.
Yeah, I know. You're absolutely right. It is always the pressure that's on the big team, right? And especially the LA Galaxy. But how many times do they have to go to North Carolina and get their butt kicked? So it's one of those things. The Galaxy haven't had tremendous U.S. Open Cup success since I've been covering the team. Certainly since 2009. There's been a couple little runs in there, and again, the coin toss matters more than a lot of these things. If you get the more home games you have, the more likely you are to win U.S. Open Cup. So whenever the coin tosses come into this, it's about who's hosting the game, and that usually determines who's going to win it. Very rarely does a U.S. Open Cup winner play more than 2 games on the road the entire tournament that they go, and most of those only play 1. I don't know.
The thing about these tournaments, FA Cup and all those, is the big club is supposed to go to the little club's place. The Galaxy is supposed to go play at some high school field or something. That's the way it's supposed to be, but it's not.
I did think that would have been fun had San Diego hosted it and the LA Galaxy would have to go to San Diego. I would have enjoyed that more than San Diego coming up. And by the way, main stadium, I think the game, is it a 7:30 p.m. kickoff time? I'd have to actually look it up. I don't even know. I've been so busy with the live show that I decided, I guess, not to pay any attention to anything else. I just realized that I hadn't put in my credential for the Nashville game as well, and I was just like, what is going on? Am I paying any attention whatsoever?
But you're you. They can't even start the game without you. So
yeah,
you're good.
Don't we wish? So anyway, I'll be up there, sort of help you through that and get everything ready for you again. It should be a pretty interesting game between those two. Now, the other thing that happened today, Kevin, was the pre-sale. The pre-sale for the Leagues Cup Showcase went up today. Now, there was a little hiccup even to start. And that hiccup involved the LA Galaxy deciding to say that, hey, season ticket members, the pre-sale starts at 10 a.m. And then they didn't send out everybody's pre-sale information, Kevin, until 10 a.m. So those emails didn't start hitting till like 10:03, 10:04, 10:10. There were people 20 minutes after 10 o'clock who hadn't gotten their emails. It's like, maybe you want to give some people some heads up and some time to be ready with the link and everything to go to sort of figure this out. If you're expecting the type of flow that I think they're expecting, which I think might be overhyped a little bit. But I was able to go there. There's some things we learned, Kevin. Wednesday, this game's Wednesday, August 3rd, right? I think that's right. Wednesday, August 3rd, the event time now is listed at 5:30 p.m. We don't know which game is first. I don't know. They haven't told us yet. But the start time is 5:30 p.m. So you can plan on, if you're going to this game on Wednesday, at being in your seats and ready to go at 5:30 p.m. for the first game. That's where the LA
Galaxy Chivas, LAFC Club America, and then the winners meet in the final later that night, right?
No, there's no final. Unfortunately, it's just a showcase, Kevin. It's not an actual tournament. So there won't be. So I was able to sort of log in and figure out where the LA Galaxy tickets would be. And basically what you can see from the seating chart whenever it would pop up is that each team is given like a quarter pie section of the stadium, and it goes around. So basically the stadium is divided into 4. Now it's not exactly, because some of those sections in the middle are like they're kind of borderline VIP sections, so you probably can get some mixing and some different things. But if you say there's 70,000 seats at this stadium and you divide that by 4, then each section has roughly 17,500 seats in it, roughly. Okay, so those are the sections that they're sort of putting together. And so if you're looking at this, and I don't know if it's north, south, east, and west, but if you're looking at like the bottom right of the stadium graphic, that bottom right corner is the LA Galaxy's corner. And then the top left, so caddy corner, is LAFC. And then Chivas Guadalajara is down at the bottom left. And then the top right is Club America. So they have the Galaxy and LAFC separated caddy corner, and they have Chivas and Club America separated caddy corner. And the Galaxy are neighbors with Club America to the top and Chivas to the left, right? So that's sort of how they put it together. Now, the supporters sections are located within this, and I think all the supporters sections are located on the second level, not the first level, but that second level. And there's 3 sections for LA Galaxy, and I don't know about the other ones, but I know that there's 3 sections of the LA Galaxy that are specifically for supporters in those sections. Now, the tickets, Kevin, People didn't believe me whenever I said this, though. The tickets ranged quite a range. If you're all the way up into the upper bowl, you can basically get into the building for $45 plus whatever Ticketmaster fees and all that fun stuff, right? So $45 plus that, plus parking, plus all that fun stuff. So by the time you get in there, I mean, that's $90 for 2 people, and then you have to park a car, which is probably about $60 to $70, I think, in there. So about $150 can probably get you and a friend into this game. If you
Quite a
want.
bargain compared to other ticket prices.
The other ticket prices included, as they were lower level and more center of the field, at least in the LA Galaxy section, the upper level was VIP, or excuse me, the upper level tickets, which is the bottom level bowl, is $455 per ticket in the VIP section in that lower bowl.
For scrimmage.
Yeah, for a game that doesn't mean much. So that was what we sort of learned from that. And it seemed that depending on what your ticket package was, Kevin, for the LA Galaxy, that sort of allowed you to go in and buy certain tickets in certain sections. So if you were a premium seat member, you were able to buy tickets all the way down at the bottom, all the way to the top. But I think there were some people, like supporters groups, were only allowed to buy tickets in the supporters groups. And I think some of the other tickets, maybe if you were in the 200 levels, like you were only allowed to buy tickets like from the middle of the stadium and back. Like they were sort of keeping you within your zone, I guess. I don't know. It's crazy.
And this game, the Galaxy Chivas game, is now big because it's going to be Almeida's return to California as coach, right? Now that he's gone from San Jose, he'll be back at Chivas by then.
He'll be back at Chivas by then. I know that was an interesting. I mean, everybody sort of saw it coming. But Almeida out as a San Jose coach, which means
to me the bigger MLS news today was Brad Guesman and his injury. At 37, I don't think he's coming back. Which
it was an ACL or an MCL. It was one of the ligaments that was.
It was one of the L's, yeah.
Yeah, and he's done.
Well, he hasn't said. No one said that yet. I mean,
he's done for the season.
Right, and I think at his age, I know he's a goalkeeper, but at his age, it would seem like it'd be very difficult for him to come back. I hope he does come back, at least to take a sort of tour around the country and say goodbye to everybody because he deserves it.
Right.
Two-time World Cup player.
Not everybody gets that chance, Kevin. No. Not everybody gets a chance to come back and say goodbye. So he would be, a lot of guys are carried off the field their last time they're on it. Hopefully that's not the case for Brad Guzan. I kind of like him. All right. Let's see. LA Galaxy playing against San Diego Loyal coming up on Tuesday night. And then, of course, the LA Galaxy will host Nashville FC. Nashville SC on Saturday, April 23rd, 7:30 p.m. And the kickoff is at 7:38 p.m. Local LA Galaxy broadcast. So LAGalaxy.com and Spectrum Sportsnet are where you can find those games, or on ESPN Plus if you're outside.
7:38. It's another tune-up for that Chivas game coming up in August.
That's all these league games.
$455 Chivas of Guadalajara game.
They're just tune-ups for all of that.
I was just down in Guadalajara, as you know. I came back last Thursday night actually Friday, and all anybody was talking about down there was the upcoming game with the Galaxy.
That's not true.
No, I didn't hear one person mention it.
I was going to say, I tuned out for a second as I was going to try to go do something. I'm like, what is that? There's no way that's true. That's not how that works. I just want to make sure I get the timing correct for this game coming up against San Diego. 7:30 p.m. is the kickoff time for that. I believe all of the U.S. Open Cup games are also streamed on ESPN Plus. I don't know that there's blackouts. So I don't know if that's the case in this, but I believe that that's been the case so far, that they're streaming all of the U.S. Open Cups.
And so if you're fans of Orange County Soccer Club, which I know there are a lot that I think listen to this great little stadium down there in the Great Park, they will be playing Wednesday at Bank of California Stadium. You can watch that streaming as well. Yeah,
so they're going up there. Now, there's a redraw after this that sort of puts everybody against their next opponent. So there is no direct bracket path to who you play after this. So we'll figure that out after this game is done.
So let's just say there is a bracket and you pull names out of a hat or whatever. Should the organizers of this tournament, U.S. Soccer, they do everything possible to avoid having the Galaxy play LAFC in the U.S. Open Cup? I think they should.
No, I think they will do the exact opposite because this is not Major League Soccer. This is U.S. Soccer, and it's U.S. Open, and they want the views, and they want the viewership, and they want all that. They they draw lots, right? They flip coins, they do that type of thing, so it's random. I'm sure there's they freeze some of those quarters or something like that and makes them land on one way or the other, however they do it. But I guarantee you they will not care. They want that matchup. Now, I would hope they would want that matchup next and not this time. Not the next game, but the game after that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. I mean, you don't want. I know at some point if they're both alive, they have to meet. But then, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but this is kind of fun. So if you're Greg Vanney, do you play your first team lineup against your inner city rival? You've talked a lot about how this is the biggest game since sliced bread. You're playing them again. It's a game that counts. It's a result. It's a tournament. There's a trophy at the end. Do you play your first team against them knowing it's LAFC when you wouldn't play your first team against, say, San Jose or Portland? Do you play your first team?
I'll tell you this. It doesn't matter because we don't know that that's going to happen yet, so I'm not going to talk about it.
Oh, man, you fanned on the shot.
There is Mr. Provino, who's in the chat, by the way, says this next draw that they do after this is the last draw. So they basically draw, and then all the positions are set into a bracket that then you can follow along and say, oh, well, this person hosts this one, and this one goes this way, and they basically draw for the rest of the tournament after this. But that's not this. So we don't know where the LA Galaxy will fall after this game, but we'll find out. They'll have the draw, and then we'll be able to say if they beat San Diego.
If they beat San Diego.
So.
That is not an if you can just throw away.
It should be, Kevin.
I think it should be, but again, the San Diego has a lot to play for, and Landon Donovan is going to remind them of that on that 2-hour bus ride.
But San Diego just lost 5-2 to Louisville, right?
Yes, they did, and there was a red card in that game.
Yes, there was. So I don't
know if that carries over.
It shouldn't. Although sometimes it does, so that's always a question. That's a great answer, Josh.
Yeah, remember that was really good. Yeah.
Remember whenever Clint Dempsey ripped up the red card, ripped up the card of the referee? I think that carried over. That was one that carried over for sure. So we'll see how that goes. And San Diego will be coming up, obviously, to play and see where that goes. All right. Anything else you want to talk about, or are we good?
I didn't know. I didn't have anything to talk about when we started. So
people figured that out very clearly. All right, if you're looking for Mr. Kevin
Baxter, how many
Baxter
shots on goal this week?
On Twitter at KBaxter11, head on over to the LATimes.com. He has a great article in there about streaming. It was great because I think he got the hammer to talk about. That's why I think it was a great article. Had nothing to do with the writing. Yeah, I'm sure he did. So head on over to LATimes.com and please support Panda over there. Catch him on Twitter, all that fun stuff at KBaxter11. If you're looking for, it's at Jay Guesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast. Head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com for all of our wonderful reporting on the LA Galaxy. We appreciate everybody who came out for the live show. We appreciate you joining us here tonight on our live show. And if you're listening on the podcast, we love you too. Y'all have been amazing, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about a whole bunch of things on Thursday, a win over the San Diego Loyal, perhaps, and getting you ready for Nashville. So big fun things planned for Thursday. For Mr. Kevin the Panda Baxter, I'm Josh Pato Guesman, and you've been watching Corner of the Galaxy from the box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast, and be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.